This week on A&M, top leaders of the Seventh-day Adventist Church build a church in the Dominican Republic.
Also in the Dominican Republic, a street is named after the denomination's co-founder.
And the church's Inter-American region launches its Year of the Pastor with a territory-wide ordination service.
These stories and more coming up.
This is A&N, a service of the Seventh-day Adventist World Church. Thanks so much for joining us this week.
First in the news, 29 top leaders of the Seventh-day Adventist Church last week decided to make a practical contribution to a neighborhood in the Dominican Republic by constructing a church. World Church President Ted Wilson led the group of vice presidents, presidents of the church's world territories, and other senior church administrators. The leaders took a break from a week-long business meeting to assist in the Maranatha Volunteers International Project in the town of La Romana. Maranatha is known for its one-day churches, which is a church that is constructed by volunteers in a single day. Elder Ted Wilson shared why it was important for the church's leaders to participate in the project.
What happened on that day was not only significant for what it did for the local church. It's a little place called Villa Cayoba in a region called, or a little bigger place called Villa Hermosa. But it was not only helpful for them, there are about 40 people that meet in this little church. And we built a church, helped to build a church building, and also a Sabbath school room. They have bathrooms there, they have water down about 200 feet, and they brought up beautiful fresh water. It was fantastic. So they can serve the local community there with fresh water and also living water. So it was a real blessing for the local community. But in addition to that, you should have seen all these leaders. They were serious. Everybody was given a job. Maranatha Volunteers International was very careful in the way they organized things. I didn't want anyone just sitting around looking, Everybody needed to be involved who wanted to be, and Maranatha did a tremendous job. It was just so exciting, and it created a bond. It created an understanding that connecting very closely with the local level can really be a great blessing to leaders so they don't forget the real mission takes place on the very front lines. God blessed us in a wonderful way, and people left with a very strong impression that God had worked that day, not only for the local community, but for our own hearts.
The town of La Romana also welcomed another addition to their community, this time in the form of a street name. Last week, a ceremony was held to reveal the renaming of a street after the co-founder of the Seventh-day Adventist Church, Ellen G. White. During the ceremony, La Romana's mayor, Maritza Suero, welcomed leaders of the Seventh-day Adventist Church, including its president, Ted Wilson. Wilson thanked local leaders for the gesture to commemorate the work of White and their efforts in promoting religious freedom. The idea to rename what used to be 7th Street came from a district councilman who was raised an Adventist and was inspired by White's contributions to the field of health. According to G.T. Ng, Secretary of the Adventist Church and Chair of the White Estate Board of Trustees, this is the first time a street has been named after Ellen G. White.
An initiative to highlight the work of ministers in the Inter-American region was launched last week during a territory-wide ordination ceremony. More than 100 pastors were ordained throughout the region during the launch of the Year of the Pastor. During the ceremony, Israel Leto, president of the church's Inter-American region, said the territory immensely values the work of its church pastors, their dedication, and the work of their spouses. During the ceremony, Adventist evangelist Mark Finley challenged the ordained pastors to inspire and help their members to reach the world with the gospel.
The first missionary pilot of the Seventh-day Adventist Church and co-founder of an Adventist aviation company passed away last week at the age of 95. According to the Adventist Review, Leonard Bernard was an Australian national who began his work for the denomination in 1933. Bernard was known for pioneering missionary work for 3 decades on the South Pacific Islands, especially Papua New Guinea. In the 1960s, Bernard co-founded Adventist Aviation, which is a company that operates a fleet of mission planes in the church's South Pacific region.
Coming up, thousands of young adults participate in character building activities during a Pathfinder Camporee.
One of the reasons why I am so convinced that God can give true freedom is because I've seen it time and time again in my work as a chaplain in the United States Navy. I remember a young man who had all kinds of addictions. He had seen counselors and psychologists, but he began to attend one of my Bible studies, and he got to know the Christ whom I have come to love. And he was freed from these debilitating addictions because of his relationship with God. So I am convinced that the freedom that God brings as we grapple with shackles and chains and addictions is the freedom that leads to true joy.
Welcome back, and now for more news from our global church community.
The Seventh-day Adventist Church in Uganda recently organized a Pathfinder Camporee that drew more than 7,000 people from various parts of the nation. Organizers planned a variety of educational and recreational activities for the week-long event that focused on outdoor skills, character building, and HIV and AIDS prevention. Students were encouraged to make positive choices and keep the Word of God in their hearts. The Camporee ended with a baptism of more than 160 Pathfinders.
More than a year of conflict and civil unrest in South Sudan has left 1 out of 2 people in the nation without proper nutrition. Anita Adandi, Emergency Management Director for ADRA Canada, traveled to South Sudan to visit potential food distribution sites.
For this project, each of the 1,776 families is going to get food and non-food items. We are giving 50 kilograms of sorghum, 5 kilograms of beans, 3 kilograms of oil, and 1 kilogram of salt. Together with that, we are giving a one-time kitchen set, which includes 2 pots, 6 plates, 6 spoons, and 6 forks. We have food committees that have been set up, selected by the community, trusted people, fair people, who are going to supervise the distribution and the sharing of the food. ADRA is the first NGO to go after the war to this specific county. We are trying to deal with the most urgent needs. The basic most urgent need right now is food. During the registration, we are going to register everyone who is in the area. And then once we have the big list, we will prioritize according to the most vulnerable people. Canadians and the rest of the world need to think about people in South Sudan because they're innocent and they have no choice but to go through this difficult, humiliating, disturbing time of their lives. ADRA is not supporting either side of those that are causing this conflict. ADRA is looking out for the man and woman and child who are just caught in between and are helpless and hopeless unless we bring something that will give back hope to them.
To review the full report from South Sudan, visit news.adventist.org.
Before British National Health Service team member Edward Vandy began his journey back to Sierra Leone for his second round as a volunteer, he sat down with Hope Channel UK to discuss his drive to serve.
You've got a good job here in England at Broadmoor Hospital.
Yes.
It's a well-respected place to work. What made you decide to leave all of that and to volunteer to go to Sierra Leone in quite dangerous circumstances?
Well, I believe that I have knowledge, skill, but also I have a passion to help people, vulnerable people. And I have been involved in charity activities since, I think, 2002. But this time around, when the call came, I saw that not a lot of people were volunteering from here. And it dawned on me where Christ says, when you do any of this, you have done it for me. And given my background, me myself, I was adopted and cared for. And I thought maybe I have to do something in order to fulfill a passion in me that I'm helping someone that is less fortunate than myself.
Why specifically this Ebola issue, and why specifically Sierra Leone?
Well, I have got a background in Sierra Leone. Originally, we come from Sierra Leone. When the call came, I speak the language, and I saw some of my colleagues who have volunteered to go and work there. They don't even speak Creole. They don't speak the language, but they have the desire to help. So I went there, and it was huge advantage to the organization, my involvement, because they could see that a black colleague can come to them, talk to them, and actually ask them to come to hospital. So that changed for most of them coming to hospital.
To see the full interview, visit news.adventist.org.
And finally in the news this week, the Voice of Prophecy in Norway has recently begun using new methods for promoting their Bible correspondent courses. Hope Channel Norway sent the following report that highlights some of the campaign's positive results.
For many years, the Voice of Prophecy Correspondence School in Norway followed the traditional way of advertising for their Bible correspondence courses. Church members would distribute brochures in their neighborhoods, and many brochures would be distributed by post. But with rising fees, direct mail distribution became very costly, and it was not very efficient. Out of 1,000 brochures distributed, the result would typically be less than one new VOP student. Sometimes the VOP would need to send out 2,000 or even 3,000 leaflets just to get one student.
We wanted to have more students for less money, so we tried advertisement with Google AdWords and Facebook. So 2014 in the fall, we saw that we could have about the same amount of students for half the price as we used the year before for pamphlets.
They started using advertisement that would appear when people searched for specific words on Google. If a person used words like faith, God, or the Bible in their Google search, an advertisement for a Bible correspondence course would appear. This service, called Google AdWords, has been much more cost-efficient than the previous direct mail. Advertising on Facebook has helped the correspondence school in attracting younger students.
The positive about AdWords and our Google campaign has been that we've seen a more diverse age group for our students, so that we have everything from 14, 15 and up. Of course, we do have a Bible course for the kids as well, but the general Bible courses are more diverse, as well as what we see is that we have people coming to church, and that is very positive, that we have a connection with the local church and the student.
Digital advertising has come to stay. The VOP in Norway looks forward to reaching many new students with these new methods.
Still ahead, learn about the church's upcoming Communication and Technology Conference.
But up next, find out what's in the latest issue of Liberty Magazine.
The smell in that room, my husband said, was so strong that he felt like he himself was going to suffocate if he stayed there any longer. And so he rushed over to the crib and felt Simon to see if he was still breathing. And he grabbed Simon and brought him out of the room. In the morning, we took him to the doctor, and the doctor said, yes, that was definitely a close call, but Simon is great. There's no problem with him whatsoever. And so no longer did I ever feel that those nightly prayers we had for Simon's protection were a routine. Yes, we did them on a routine basis, but they made a difference. My name is Marla, and my prayer was answered.
When I go to sleep, I pray for Jesus to help me not to have bad dreams. Pray for my grandpa because he is in cancer right now.
I pray. I don't want to get sick anymore.
I pray for my family.
Please pray 7 in the morning, 7 in the evening, and 7 days a week.
Welcome back. Lincoln Steed shares a preview of the newest edition of Liberty Magazine.
The January issue of Liberty Magazine has, as usual, I think, a very attention-grabbing cover of refugees traipsing across the desert. But it's the story that tells the shocking truth, not the visual. Because the reality is, with the advance of ISIL, the terrorist organization, through the city of Mosul in Iraq, as many as 600,000, mostly Christians and other religious minorities, were forced to flee for their lives. Those that stayed were killed. And the reality is that now there are no Christians in that large city of Iraq. What Liberty is proclaiming, and other religious liberty journals also are putting forth, but few people notice, is that we are witnessing what really amounts to the final expulsion of Christians from the Middle East. It may seem a false reality that we have no troubles in the West, the United States and other Western countries, but in many countries, in many regions, most particularly the Middle East, Christians and people of faith are being harassed, are being persecuted, and are being killed for their faith. The need for religious liberty and those who will defend the right of anyone of faith to believe and follow that faith conviction has never been stronger. And I want you to support Liberty Magazine as it proclaims this crying need for our time.
Are you interested in cybersecurity, app development, or multi-site churches? These topics and much more will be discussed during the church's free online GAIN conference. For this week's Tech Corner, John Beckett shares how you can sign up.
Welcome, John, and thanks for joining us.
Yep.
Can you tell us where and when GAIN will occur this year?
Yep. Well, in previous years, we've had GAIN at a certain physical location, like last year we had it up in Baltimore. This year we decided we were going to try something new, and we're going to have GAIN online. So it's not really, for most people, going to be in a physical place. It's going to be wherever you are.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah. The other really great thing is that we've planned it so that no matter where in the world you are, you can join us. We're having it repeated 3 times throughout the day. So the presentations are going to repeat, and then there will be a live discussion that you can participate in that's going to be unique to each time slot.
Mm-hmm. That's very interesting. Now, who is able to register and how can they register?
Okay. If you're interested in joining GAIN, you might be interested in joining GAIN if you're thinking about things like technology, maybe using technology for the mission of the church. Maybe you're a communication person or a designer or something like that. If you're that kind of a person, you might like to register. It's completely free. All you have to do is sign up at the GAIN website for the GAIN email list. You can go to gain.adventist.org, sign up for the GAIN email list, and then when the conference comes in February, we'll be sending out those links where you go to watch the video and join in the chat discussions.
Oh, okay. Sounds good. And what can people expect this year from the presenters and the topics for GAIN?
We have really a wide range of topics planned. We're going to be talking about the visual identity of websites, so that how you can make your website look part of the Seventh-day Adventist Church. We're going to be talking about distance education. We've got an expert coming in from Andrews University to talk about that. Also some more technical topics and some more mission-oriented topics are planned for the GAIN this year. The whole list of presenters and things like that is going up on the website very soon.
Sounds good. Well, I know a lot of people are looking forward to this.
It's going to be exciting. Really fun conference.
Thank you so much, John.
Thank you.
And now it's time for your weekly social media report with Angela Taipei. This week, learn how Adventist universities are showing support for a college student who was critically injured during her gymnastics practice.
On January 14, Heather Boulais, a student at Union College in the U.S. state of Nebraska, fell while setting up equipment for gymnastic practice, suffering severe injuries. Although small improvements have been made, she remains in critical condition. People around the world have been gathering together for prayer services for Heather on college campuses, churches, individually, and online. They've been sending comfort to the family and encouraging others to pray through the hashtags #PrayForHeather and Union United. Universities across North America and even internationally have also taken to social media to express their solidarity with the Union College community Heather's family, and friends. Schools such as Pacific Union College, located in the U.S. state of California, shared how their student body had gathered for prayer together, albeit from afar, with the Union College community. A post on the Facebook page of La Sierra University, also in California, stated, "There are many ways that the Seventh-day Adventist colleges and universities in North America compete with each other. But there are also times when we stand together as the family we truly are, like today." Other student athletes from Union College Gymnaires acrobatic gymnastic team have shared their pictures and updates on the team's Facebook page. Gymnastic teams from other Adventist universities and academies have been posting as well to let the team know they are still praying. You can find updates on her condition from the Boulais family on the Union College website, ucollege.edu. We encourage you to keep Heather, her family, and the Union College community in your prayers.
Chances are you know someone who made a New Year's resolution, or you made one for yourself. It's also fair to assume that many people who made their resolutions have fallen off track toward reaching their goal. Psychologist Marissa Leslie sat down with ANN's Julio Munoz to share tips on how to effectively make life changes.
Hi Marissa, and thank you so much for joining us. Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year to you.
And speaking of New Year, this is a time when many people make New Year's resolutions. Why do people make New Year's resolutions?
Well, the New Year is an opportunity to press the reset button. It's an opportunity to start over, to make over the things you maybe didn't do as well in the previous year. So it's just a natural reset and new start.
So a lot of the New Year's resolutions are based around behavior changes that people want to make. What would be your top 3 tips to help promote behavior change?
Well, the first tip would be to choose to change a behavior that you really want to change. If it's something you think other people have been asking you to change and you're not really that motivated, you're less likely to change it. The second tip would be to start small. Don't make a very long list of things you want to change. And then the third tip would be to have a very specific plan. Sometimes we fail because we set general goals. For example, I want to exercise more, instead of I want to exercise on Wednesdays at 5:30 for months.
Something that's practical that you can accomplish and
Right.
that you set yourself up for success.
Yes,
not
and that you can
failing.
actually put in your calendar and have a reminder instead of, oh, I'll do it, but then you're too tired to do it.
Right, right. And so sometimes do people maybe sabotage their resolutions? What do people do to kind of prevent themselves from making these behavior changes?
Well, I think one thing people do to sabotage their resolutions is actually setting unrealistic goals. So saying I'm going to lose 100 pounds in a month is unrealistic and unhealthy. But saying something like, I want to eat healthier and I want to be more active and this is how I want to do it, that is more likely to be a successful resolution.
That's fantastic. And as we know, people many times fail along the way, or they have a hard time keeping the resolutions. I think I may have already lost track of 2 that I made. So what can we do to stay motivated?
Well, I think one thing we can do is maybe not set it at New Year's. Set it at a time that kind of catches you off guard. New Year's is a natural time and everyone's setting resolutions at that time.
Right.
But I would say just make small changes throughout the year and that will help motivate you because you don't feel this intense pressure to start over at the new year.
Oh, well, that's fantastic advice. Marissa, thank you so much for joining us.
You're very welcome.
Leading up to General Conference session, we're going to share answers to frequently asked questions about the church's highest governing body. This week, we start with a fundamental question. What exactly is session?
The General Conference session is one of those unique times in the life of Seventh-day Adventists when thousands of people converge on one place, but from hundreds and thousands of locations and so many countries around the world, many different people groups, languages, but they're all united in the wonderful message that Jesus died for us, that He is ministering for us, and that He is coming again very soon. And so General Conference session is not only a business meeting where activities take place, leaders are selected, and business is conducted it is also a huge spiritual opportunity for us to refocus on the reason why Seventh-day Adventists are even called into existence, to proclaim the three angels' messages of Revelation 14 and to herald the second coming of Jesus Christ. So this gives us a renewed sense of our identity and an understanding of our great mission to reach the 7 billion people around the world.
Now let's turn to David Trim for a look at Adventist history. This week, learn about the establishment of New Zealand's first Adventist school.
Welcome to This Week in Adventist History, this week with an educational emphasis. On January 19, in 1908, the New Zealand Conference constituency meeting founded the country's first Adventist school. Originally known as the Pukakura Training School, it has changed its name several times, adopting the current title Longburn Adventist College in 1986. Since 1990, it has been a secondary school, and it currently has around 300 students. On January 21, 1941, in Tacoma Park in the District of Columbia, the building for the recently founded Seventh-day Adventist Theological Seminary was dedicated. In 1936, the 43rd General Conference session had voted to found a seminary for advanced theological education, and it opened in August 1938 with 11 faculty and 38 students in temporary quarters. The dedicated building, which was near the General Conference headquarters, allowed the expansion of the seminary, whose faculty and students are shown here in a photo from 1942 or 43. On January 22, 2014, 12 months ago, Leone Gilden Running died at the age of 97. She was the first female professor at the Seventh-day Adventist Theological Seminary, joining the faculty in 1955 at the age of 39 when it was still at Tacoma Park. She made the transition with the seminary when it moved to Andrews University. In all, Running taught 47 years at the seminary, including after her nominal retirement. She taught ancient Egyptian, Akkadian, and Sumerian into her mid-80s. Professor Running trained generations of Adventist pastors and theologians. And that was This Week in Adventist History.
Thanks for watching ANN. Join us next week for more news from the headquarters of the Seventh-day Adventist Church.
In the meantime, join our global conversation on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can connect with other Adventists worldwide through more stories, photos, and videos. Visit Facebook/Adventist News, Twitter/Adventist Church, and Instagram @Adventist Church.
Our good news for this week comes from Isaiah chapter 41, verse 13. The passage says, "For I hold you by your right hand, I, the Lord your God. And I say to you, don't be afraid, I am here to help you."
Amen. That's our program for this week. And remember, you can always visit news.adventist.org for daily news and videos. Until next time, God bless.
Take care.